Are you good?
All right, Greg, I think we're good. I think we're good to go.
All right, perfect. Welcome everybody online and those in person to the July 31st regular meeting of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:01, and if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I hate to do this, but if you would stand again while Ms. Urban reads our following responders this last month. Reads the names of the following responders this last month.
Okay, give me one sec, guys. Are you getting feedback if I do it this way?
Nope, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. I'm keeping you on my cell phone, and I will read on my phone. So give me one moment, please. Okay. All right, you guys can hear me okay? See this screen?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, since our last board meeting, we have lost 9 of our firefighter brothers, and I will read their names. Steve G. Sandeman, 52 years old, from Kansas City, Missouri, of occupational cancer. Doran J. Kemp, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 44 years old, from occupational cancer. Charles Charlie Parker, from Chittenden, Vermont, died of an unknown cause at 74 years old. James Jim Kova, from St. Louis, Missouri, also unknown causes, 54 years old. Matthew Tobin, from Columbia, Missouri, died during a drowning accident during a swift water rescue, 42 years old. Daniel Foley, from Lakeview, Oregon, unknown causes after collapsing after a district work capacity test with the Forest Service, 27 years old. Alexander Acosta, from Metropolitan Dade County, Florida, died of suicide from post-traumatic stress-related illness, 49 years old. Andrew Nanks, of Lynchburg, Virginia, died of occupational cancer, 37 years old. Jeff Tomzak, from Allentown, Pennsylvania, died of occupational cancer, 44 years old.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, we'll have a roll call of board members, but we don't need a roll call. I see everyone here is present. I would ask that my fellow board members take a look at the agenda and make any corrections, additions, or deletions.
I have 2, please.
Okay?
First, I would request that we either delete or postpone the number 10.1 strategic plan presentation due to current circumstances and staffing. Chief Ware's not here.
I believe that would be appropriate to table that discussion until our next regular scheduled board meeting.
Thank you.
Is there any issues with that by any of the board members?
No.
Okay.
And then number 2 would be the addition under new number 10.2, resolution opposing initiative 50/108.
Let's put that under 11.2, since that would be new business.
Oh, I did, I said 10, I meant 11, I wrote down 11. I got excited about number 10.
I understand due to the nature of the issue that there is a need for immediacy. So there, you and I have spoken, there's been a request to forego the normal 7-day notice in light of the circumstances. Are there any verbal concerns from any of our board members?
What is the urgency here? Why can we not take this up at the next month's meeting?
Because all resolutions and any sort of board commentary, whether it be from a fire board or a special district board, has been requested by the SDA for presentation in August, so they're requesting everything pretty much by tomorrow.
Who is?
The Special District Association, because they are presenting against what is currently Initiative 50 and 108 before it goes to ballot.
They're presenting what to whom?
They are presenting the list of objections to this measure to the, I believe it is the Senate floor.
To the Colorado Senate? But the
it was a request-
The Colorado Senate is not in session.
I can look it up, but it was a request by the Special District Association prior, and it may be the district court requesting they do not put this up at this time. Because final ballot language goes on September 6th. They have one shot on my internet's down. They have one shot prior to the September 6th deadline to request that this not be posted to the ballot. Let's see, is going to Bethany, I know you read a bunch on it too. Do you remember where it's going in front of?
Hey, Dom, really, the SDA is working to get this communication out to all special districts so that they have time to create these resolutions before measures are official, before mailed ballots drop. So there is some urgency around timing, given that.
So Bethany, Chuck here, just to be clear, you're saying that SDA has requested this of all special districts so that they can get an internal communication out
It's an
to
external
their
communication.
members?
No, it's an external communication.
External communication out to their communication channels?
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Opposing this, yeah.
So how does that create a
They have a deadline.
emergency, but their deadline is not really related to us?
Well, if
I
we
mean-
want to be, you're right, Chuck, their deadline is separate from our deadline.
Yeah.
But their deadline precedes our August board meeting. And so if the Elk Creek Fire Protection District wants to go on record opposing Prop 50 and Prop 108, we need to act currently.
Just so we can get into the queue with SDA.
Mhm.
So it's for their convenience only.
So, real quick, let me just cut to the chase real quick. We can have discussion about what the content of and what the purpose of and what the direction might be with the approval of it during this, once we add it to the agenda. But my ask of our fellow board members is to allow this to be a part of new business. We have had history of things being added at the last minute in the last few months. And I see no reason why we can't address this issue. Is there any other concerns? If I will make a motion if necessary to get it on the new agenda.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, I make the motion that we add
No
the
objection.
resolution.
Greg, no objection.
Okay,
No
perfect.
objection. I just wanted to have a discussion
So
for clarity's sake and for the record.
Of which will be mentioned during discussion during new business, with the addition to the agenda of initiatives 50, the discussion on 50 and 108, yes?
And I would like to actually delete something from your business and actually call a request policy. I disagree with Director Newby on his lineouts. John Camille, I'm returning.
John Camille is on, so we'll be able to have a discussion about that. I think
Sharon, could you speak
in
up?
relation to what you're saying, Sharon, I think it will be good to at least initiate if we don't approve, or if we do approve, whatever the circumstances are surrounding that. I believe it would be good for us to have the education that Mr. Camille will be able to present us during discussion.
So,
As long as we're not voting to approve it.
I can't say a motion will or will not be made, but I just think that this would be a great opportunity for us to look at and discuss the open records request policy that was presented to us as, and then use our council for education or process knowledge.
so Sharon, what did you just say? I could not hear you. Would you care to repeat?
I was going to ask to delete something from the agenda, and Greg has convinced me that we can leave it on the agenda and have it open to discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, I would accept the motion to incorporate the addition of tabling the strategic plan until our regular meeting in August, and then to add into new business the discussion on initiatives 50 and 108. A second on that?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, additions have been approved. Or is there a no or abstention?
Yeah, there is a no.
Okay. Let it be recorded that Director Newby voted no on the approval of the agenda. All right, that takes us to the public comment period. I thought I saw Dr. Whitehead I think is the only one that had signed up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I have some questions and sort of statements. Is the North Fork Fire Protection District part of the Conifer Wildland Division? Question mark. And number two, where are the Elk Creek Fire Protection District's assets deployed outside the district now in terms of personnel, equipment, and location? In the military, that would be called order of battle.
Okay.
Number three, on the reporting of mutual aid rendered to Elk Creek and Elk Creek rendering to others mutual aid, it would be of great value to the residents of Elk Creek Fire Protection District to know which districts we're giving aid to and receiving, and that would allow us to detect trends and patterns. And that should be a very simple thing to do in the monthly report.
I
And
apologize, Ms. Whitehead, can you repeat that last statement? I was taking notes.
in the monthly reports of mutual aid rendered to Elk Creek and mutual aid given by Elk Creek, it would be of great value to the residents of the district to know who we're giving it and getting it from, so that the residents could begin to understand patterns and trends, since this is a major question or problem
Okay,
that's arising.
just to address that quickly for you right now, it is part of the board report.
What do you mean that?
Okay,
You mean we get the board report, but not the public report?
the board report is public, isn't it?
No, but it gives a number of, the total, it gives the total.
You would like to know who,
Yes,
to whom, and from whom.
yes, that's very
Okay.
important, extremely important.
Okay,
You continue, Mr. Whitehead. Thank you.
thank you, I apologize for interrupting.
And then finally, number 4, in regards to any resolution for Propositions 50 and 108, I would strongly suggest that the residents would not want any taxpayer money to be spent in opposition to these proposals in the campaign leading to November the 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bless you.
Thanks.
Okay, that concludes our public comment period. And I would ask that my fellow board members look at the 2024 regular meeting minutes from July and see if there's any additions, deletions, or corrections that are necessary. June, I beg your pardon, June. Please look at the June union meeting minutes to see if there's any additions, deletions, or corrections. Thank you.
One correction where it talks about the meeting minutes, I think it talks about April rather than May.
Okay,
I didn't see that.
on the approval,
Yeah, in the meeting minutes, it talks about the review of last month's April meeting minutes. It should read May meeting.
So what item number is that, Melissa?
Just a second. Number 8. Where it says minutes of the April board meeting, it should say minutes of the May board meeting.
I'm so sorry, I don't see it.
I don't see that either.
I see July mentioned in the draft that
Number 8, minutes of the April board meeting.
Yeah, it's in the
should
title.
say. It's in the
Sorry,
title.
I was
It
looking
should
at
say-
item
I just
number
didn't catch
8.
it, the title.
There's,
It's
yeah,
So we
the
have,
title that needs to be.
there's 2 eights here, yeah.
Sorry,
So there's 2 issues. One, we need to.
Oh, never mind.
and the numbering didn't update.
Yeah, could you update, so,
So update item number 8 to, that would be May.
May.
Yeah.
And then we need to reorder
Yep.
the remaining components of the minutes for our items.
Yeah.
All right, so those are 2. Anything else?
Thank you.
Last time. Any other additions, deletions, or corrections other than those mentioned to approve the June regular meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
I,
Against? Abstentions, all right. Thank you very much. That'll jump us right into item number 8, financial matters. And we'll let Ms. Bethany get that up on the screen for us.
Okay, guys, give me 1 second.
You can skip the first slide, Bethany, it just says it's a June report. Just start with the slide you're on. Please,
Here we go.
next slide.
Here, 1 sec, Sharon, let me get this on, slideshow for you. There we go.
Okay, this is the report, the financial report for June, month of June 2024. Today's date is July 31st, 2024. Next slide. Total revenue budget for 2024 is $7,001,515. Year-to-date revenue for June 2024, actuals are $4,365,195 against a revenue budget year-to-date of $3,987,832. Property taxes are the biggest component of that. ownership taxes, interest income, lease revenue, ambulance transports, grants, no change from last month, mitigation grants, no change, and reimbursement from Inter Canyon for shared responsibilities. Next slide. Budget for expenses for the year 2024, $6,370,604. Year-to-date expense actuals for June 2024, $2,806,490. A budget at this point, $2,341,800. Basically, some departments were a little over budget, some under budget, so that's where we are today. Next slide. Year-to-date net income forecast is $630,911, very close to 2023's actual. Net income at this point, net income is at $1,558,705 actuals and $1,646,032 forecast. So we're a little bit under where we were or where we forecasted. We'll continue to monitor this as we go forward. Next slide. Property tax revenue is our biggest revenue amount. The budget for this year is $4,535,365. Actuals at this point is just slightly above the year-to-date budget. Year-to-date budget is $3,399,265. Actuals are at $3,049,386. We'll continue to monitor this also. Next slide. This is what the monthly property tax forecast budget looks like. You can see that on a monthly basis we're running a little bit above where the budget is for the month, but it's the same general spread, if you will. We should see another uptick in July because property taxes, there will be more property taxes due in July. Next slide. Labor. So our budget for our year-to-date budget for labor without SERF, which is the out-of-district budget for labor, is $2,961,946. At actuals, we're at $1,711,064. Year-to-date budget is $1,333,645. Please note that there are amounts in the actual labor budget for which we will receive grants, 100% grants, for at least for 2 individuals that work in administrative and fire departments. Basically, in addition, when this budget was put together, budget for 2020, or actuals for 2023 were used. In 2023, the actuals for labor included the reimbursement from Inter Canyon. Therefore, when the budget was calculated for 2024, it was assumed that we were to account for those the same that we did in 2023, but we don't. So there's some discrepancy between what the budget was based on for 2024 versus what's actually happened. Next slide. SERF labor. These are the out-of-district expenses. Our budget is $926,204. Currently, we have actuals at the end of June of $205,574 for SERF labor, and we have a budget of $167,000. Next slide. So this slide is needs maybe a little bit of explaining. We have submitted, as of July 30th, based on what I received from the administrative staff here, we've submitted $538,652. in expenses to the state. We've been paid $118,008 reimbursed. That reimbursement includes about $32,000 of fires that occurred in 2023 but were reimbursed in 2024. In addition, we have reimbursement that hasn't been paid of $420,643. If you add those two together, it comes out to $538,651, rough a dollar. So the expenses that are here for SURF, the $236,162, that is a little bit different than the rest of the numbers because that is as of the end of June, whereas all of the other numbers on the slide are as of July 30th when I received a new and updated SURF report from the staff. By state, we basically have serviced 2 fires in Arizona, 3 in California, 7 in Colorado, 1 in Georgia, 2 in Idaho, and 3 in New Mexico for a total of 18 out-of-district fires. I think everyone here is aware of what's going on currently with additional fires in Colorado. And I don't have any updates on that. I just know that we actually have boots on the ground there and will probably continue. I did just get a message that the CORA fire is now up to 336 acres from the 200 earlier today. So it's grown. Next slide. As of June 30th, 2024, actual monthly expenses recorded in the Sage ledger were $551,027. This is the amount shown in the board packet. You can check it. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the Sage financial ledger expenses recorded for June 2024 as of the time the report was run of $551,027.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? That motion carries. All right, thank you, Ms. Woods. And as we move into our next agenda item, Chief Ware was deployed last night, I think around 9, is that what we heard? Was it 9 p.m., Clark? Right about that, so he's going around, he's on about 20 hours of nonstop work as he maintains operations or manages operations at that fire until relieved. He hoped by 10 o'clock this evening. So we appreciate the efforts of Chief Ware and all of our firefighters that are working in, and our partners in North Fork and Inner Canyon that are also on that same deployment. So I should have mentioned this before. I would like to table, if it's all right with everybody, the chief's report. There's no reason for me or any one of us to read his report. Let him incorporate this into the next month's.
Personally, in my experience, he reads what he wrote, and I'm
Comfortable with it?
comfortable with reading it by myself.
Okay.
I can
Anybody
read it.
else? Any
I'm
other
comfortable with that.
Okay, then we will continue on. And again, God bless all of our firefighters who are out there on the front line, and literal front fire line. And that will take us to old business. Again, old business, we tabled the strategic plan presentation, which was all ready to go, but we will push that back until August. And now that leads us into the CORA request policy. And why don't you just give us a little bit of history on how we got to this point, real quick? Just,
Do you want a motion to open discussion?
So a motion to open discussion.
Because it is a policy that she's requesting we accept.
All right, I think you were right. We'll accept the motion to accept the policy, the opens record request policy that is dated 7/31/24. Is there a second?
I would like to amend that to state the motion as written by Ms. Stockton.
That would be appropriate as well. Is there a second on that?
Second?
Okay, all in favor of,
No,
Discussion.
now go into discussion.
Discussion.
yes. Got it.
Okay.
And there's discussion, go ahead, Dawn.
Ms. Stockton, if you would please, I can read the policy, I think you and I communicate, I support this policy. I have a couple of questions that I would like either you or Mr. Camille to clarify, but would you like to take a moment to, I know I emailed you those questions, do you wanna address them or do you want me to restate them or?
I can just start out with the reason behind all this. I think that this started months ago. Realizing that the core policy we currently have is antiquated and that it was addressed with John in the past. And I know he sent out an email to, I know myself, I'm not sure who all was on the email about updated policy wording. And so I revisited that because there's different reasons, but there's been multiple people that we get it in a mailbox, we get it handed to another employee, we get emails through 3, 4, 5 different employees. So all these things are leading to confusion and a lack of streamlining how we receive the CORA requests. So one of the things we wanted to do, following some other fire districts, is have the form online. And I verified with John that that was acceptable. And that is filtered to myself and a backup person that can handle it in my absence. I am listed, or I shouldn't say I am listed, the district administrator is listed as the designated custodian. So we wanted to have that generalized, we didn't want to name a specific person. Just in case in the future it doesn't have to be rewritten. And then the other thing was just to let people be aware of some of the wording that comes directly from the law for Colorado Open Records Act, and that is timelines and fees paid and what happens in extenuating circumstances and things like that. So it's just kind of taking what was written before and updating those disclosures and making people aware of, like I said, the costs and timelines and things like that. And so John drafted it.
Okay.
I went over it with him and asked, if a couple things could be adjusted. And this is the draft that we came up with.
We have Mr. Camille on. If
Okay.
you would like further.
I do have a couple of questions, Mr. Camille.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we allowed to limit the submission to electronic only?
Yes, from a policy standpoint, the statute does provide
Okay,
fair amount of latitude to, allow for efficiency and consistency with regard to, how you receive them. So kind of other examples are, specific email accounts that some clients have set up. And that's, it's not necessarily a form, but it is specified that you need to send it, to this email address. So there has been a move toward an electronic submission.
okay. I like the tracking on it, I think it's very efficient. And then my second, I guess it's actually not a question, but a statement. The current CORA rate is $41.37. I would recommend adjusting our language to state the current state allowable rate, so that every time it changes, you don't have to go back and change it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. That actually just came out
Yeah,
fairly recently, right?
yeah, like last week.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you know what, I apologize.
It was literally,
I meant
no,
to
John,
check
it
that.
was,
Yeah.
I didn't even know it had gone up, so, we're currently changing our statement of fees, like we just put out
Mhm.
a statement of fees every year, and we'll update it now with the new regulation that says these are the current CORA allowable rates. And it
Yeah,
saves you
and
from having to change the policy.
I would recommend, at minimum though, even if your policy, stays general like that as a reference, you should post the current dollar figure
Oh, yeah.
fee on the website.
Yeah, absolutely, and you do have to do that, you have to post the dollar amount, but this way you can, your policy doesn't change, it just becomes like an appendix, an updated appendix to the policy.
Yeah, great point, and good catch on that.
It was a fluke, man. Let's see, having reviewed some of the notes and reading through it, I recognize the need for putting a bracket around when people submit dates, or finances or any of it, so you don't just have these things sitting out there in perpetuity. Personally, I think 3 days may be too short, just from the whole getting you a check or however transferring that fee, so I would recommend 7 days, like a week, you have a week or 7 days, or 1 business week, however you wanna word it, but I would recommend 7 days. And then towards the end where it says, scheduled work, and it's up to, my comment is I don't think that's necessary, it's well before,
Which
You did-
piece, Dominic?
at the bottom, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize. It was one of the pieces that your return document had, thank you, thanks, Rick. That you had struck through, it's at the, let's see. Crap. Where you say scheduled work. Is that ringing a bell, Barbara? Do you understand, I'm sorry I didn't annotate
I'm
it.
trying to scan through it and see where you're talking about. Oh, here.
Requests for records will not take priority over previously scheduled work activities or duties provided. The request shall be met within, I think that kind of goes without saying, if you want to clarify it, that's fine by me, but I think.
I just, the only reason why I'm stating that is because that issue has come up in the past.
That it must, because it's somebody else's fire, it must be your fire, your emergency.
Well, if I'm the only person doing my job and this comes at a time, a request comes at a time that it takes me away from completing something that is a priority, like getting the audit done or something like that, that's an extenuating circumstance. And I just want people to be aware of that because some people are not. And that's the only reason why I brought that up, is because I don't think people are aware that depending on my workload, that's, and it's not workload, I shouldn't say workload, depending on what I'm trying to.
It is, like, you may have competing deadlines.
You're right, yeah.
And I completely recognize that. John, can you comment on whether or not staffing can be considered an extenuating circumstance? Like the ability to provide?
Yes, so that actually is one of the 3 extenuating circumstance exceptions. Particularly, it usually is in that kind of material context. So the example of like finishing the audit, would be a good one where there's a critical deadline that's, attached to one of the primary duties of that position and has statutory implications. So if you have that competing deadline, that at minimum can justify the extension under extenuating circumstances, but that is kind of the background for why that language is included in that policy.
Okay, thank you.
So
go ahead.
what is the process, are we voting to adopt this policy tonight?
Mm-hmm.
So we have Mr. Camille here. John, do you have the document in front of you?
Yes, this is the draft that I and Barbara worked on.
Okay. Is it the same draft that we have in front of us here? Okay. So this is our only opportunity to comment on this policy and change it? Or is there going to be another round or what? What's the process?
I wouldn't see a need if we can make the changes that are appropriate for the board. And with the direction of our council, I wouldn't see the need to belabor this.
Okay,
So you want to bring up the points that you made? In
well, I just want to go through them one by one. So John, do you have a draft copy in front of you, do you?
He said he did.
Yes.
Okay, so in the first paragraph, the last sentence, do you see are you there?
Yes.
So it says, this policy is intended to balance the public's right to inspect the records of the district and so forth and so on. Isn't that to state the obvious? And why is it necessary? It's off, I feel that it's off-putting to the public, to the requester, to anybody who reads this. It puts the district in sort of a defensive crouch. So how can you defend that language?
The bulk of that language actually comes directly from the statute that allows districts to approve policies to manage CORA requests. And I think, that's kind of some of the points that have been brought up. Protection of workflow, efficiency, consistency. And so that language comes from, I think it's 2472-203, that refers to each local government's ability to approve policies to manage the open records request. And that's primarily because, the general policy under the statute is, records that a local government maintains are generally speaking open, subject to disclosure or subject to review. But then there's a list of exceptions. So ultimately that is kind of the primary thrust, right? I mean, there's always going to have to be a review, a determination of, well, is this subject to disclosure, or by statute, are we required to, withhold this? Because there's a whole list of the exceptions that are shall deny. So it is, a policy that's intended to, put the public on notice that, this is the standard, but also that there are other elements that impact the district's ability to respond, and how the district's going to respond consistently with the statute.
I don't recall reading that language, especially where it says, and to prevent unnecessary interference with regular duties in responding to such requests. That's very defensive, could be considered to be off-putting
It's actually
to the
in,
public.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's actually in section 2472-2033B. A request involves such a large volume of records that the custodian cannot reasonably provide the records within a free period without substantially interfering with the custodian's obligation to perform other public service responsibilities.
Okay, I stand corrected. That's pretty defensive in and of itself. Coming down to the first bullet under procedures, when we say that the district administrator is designated as the custodian of records per the statute, and will accept CORA requests on behalf of the district, is that actually permissible by law? I mean, normal records like financial ledgers or memos or
Yes,
standard operating procedures, et cetera.
yes,
That's easy to see how,
202 point, I mean, they even
Barbara.
reference it, 202 1.1
yeah.
clearly states that you are allowed to designate a custodian of record. And
But,
we're just deciding who is that custodian. in this
yes,
district.
however, for example, can Barbara be the custodian of your email records
Yes,
legally?
Yes.
I want to hear from Mr. Camille.
Yes.
Is that the case?
Yes. Yeah, that is the standard operating procedure for, I mean, generally, the vast majority of our clients have a designated custodian of records, and they are the individual that manages all the CORA requests that come in, and, for example, would then work with, IT department or whoever is appropriate if there is a request that comes in for, just for sake of example, all emails between the board members on a particular topic. That custodian of records is the one who takes charge of that and works with the appropriate people to compile the records. That's who I'm communicating with typically and assisting them. So yeah, that is the individual. So it's not physical custody. It is the position of custodian of records to handle any request that comes in.
So understand, so how would such a request for emails, for example, or other electronic records be handled when somebody else actually has, other than Barbara or our administrator, when somebody else has physical or electronic possession? How would that work in practice? How does that
Typically,
work in practice?
Yeah. So I mean, the default would be kind of, anything official on kind of like, the district's networks or files, would be searchable. And generally speaking, the custodian is one of the positions that has broad access, through the various district files. So you can run, searches. So even if it's necessarily, someone else who created it, if it's on that shared file system, then, that's how that process typically would unfold. If, for example, there was like only a local electronic copy, oftentimes that comes down to, knowledge of the district, who the primary individual might be that would have created that report or something along those lines. And it's not, showing up on the shared system, then there'd be a follow-up for that, to that particular employee and say, hey, we're not finding, the report you submitted on, February 5th. Do you have it, saved somewhere else? And again, there's always the balance, right? I mean, for example, a classic question we get on emails is, personal conversations. If you're using your official Elk Creek email for some kind of personal business, the use of the Elk Creek domain or the Elk Creek file system does not necessarily make anything into an open record. So that's also always part of, the analysis. So, personal notes or personal documents would be treated differently than something that's, created and maintained in your official capacity as, for example, an Elk Creek employee. But certainly, if there was something that wasn't coming up on the shared file drive, typically there's a follow-up, to that particular individual, or sometimes it's an email blast out to multiple individuals. So there's kind of, there can be some more rudimentary follow-up if it's not accessible through a broader kind of IT-based search.
Okay, understand.
if I can comment,
Yes, please.
we just recently went through an email CORA request and it required me as the custodian of records to reach out to our IT department to do email server drop. That basically he had to go in and just download all of the email correspondence and put it in a folder that we had to remit.
So that allowed your IT person to go into everybody's or designated individuals' email accounts and just dump out.
Pull out anything that had it had a specific phrase. It was regarding a property conversation. So the IT department went through and filtered out through each individual's emails anything that had this address in its documentation.
So the custodian of the records would have a one-time
Yes.
dispensation to
Yes.
access. To
Well,
do
and
that
I didn't
access.
even access.
So
It
you
was,
didn't, but you made it happen with
Yes.
the IT person. So
I sent them the CORA request and said, please download any email file of these 6 employees with a record referencing this.
and then the IT person just mechanically executed
Yeah, they ran
your request.
Yeah.
Chuck, can we go to the next point? I'd like to stay to the content of the policy, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
No, we're talking about process surrounding core requests. We're not
Well,
talking
no,
about.
that's, we need to understand how this will work.
No, we need to talk about the policy. We're not talking about process.
I disagree,
Next
Greg.
point,
Greg.
next point, sir.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get to the next point, but we're gonna get to all of them. Okay, so John, the second bullet under procedures says all CORA requests must be made through the district's website form. This form provides uniformity and a single source for submission. Is that actually legal?
Yes.
Don't we leave ourselves up open to lawsuit by stating that so explicitly?
No, again, I mean, it's, I think that you'd find yourself in trouble if you did that on an ad hoc basis, absent a written policy that was posted, in, accessible form on the website. But again, the statute provides wide latitude for local governments to dictate, policies and procedures and require those. And as long as it's still provides broad accessibility to the process, and you're not requiring kind of like some of the things that have caused issues in the past were, requiring presentation of like a photo ID, and that limits an individual's ability. Maybe they don't have an ID or they don't have it on them. But if you're just doing it in a way that makes it uniform, creates kind of an easy collection point that refers right to the custodian of records, then that's well within that kind of efficiency and clarity basis that's within the policy-making authority.
So the third bullet point is similar to the second. And it says, requests not made through the website form will not be answered. Can we actually do that? If somebody sends us
Yeah, I mean,
a core, hang on. Somebody sends us a otherwise core request that conforms with the law via letter or via email. Can we actually not answer them? Can we just essentially ignore them forever?
well, I mean, oftentimes, if, like, for example, there's an email request that comes in, and I mean, it happens, there are a few clients that we have that use, a designated online form, and oftentimes there's a redirection from the custodian that says, we received your email, our policy requires, you to fill out a form, please go on the website and fill out the form. But also that statement generally is also to protect against those that just get sent to somebody completely random in the district, or the chief, and the chief just happens to miss it, because he's not looking out for those that, again, the intent is to make it clear in the policy where to go, to make these requests. And so that the district is clear that no other individual is responsible for or going to respond to, for example, email or letter, requests. So again, there certainly can be kind of that public relations follow-up and directing people to the proper form. But again, that's kind of one of those safety clauses of you have to follow the policy. That's why the policy is there.
Yeah, but what about
providing the process?
John, sorry to interrupt, but what about the catch-22, where people do not have computers, they don't have internet access, they do everything by old-fashioned snail mail? If they want a CORA request, they're unaware of this policy, but they know generally about, the way they used to do it in the past. They used to send a letter to the administrator requesting certain information. Are we saying that we are going to refuse that CORA request? Can we do that?
I mean, I think similarly, if that's the circumstance, we would review it at the time it came in. And the typical process then, if we're following the policy, would be to issue a return letter informing them of the policy and the process.
But what if they don't have
John,
if they don't have a computer, they're going to be locked out. So bullet number 3 says, requests not made through the website form will not be answered, period. End of statement. We can't do that.
I call the question.
No.
Yes, I am within my rights to do that.
But I get to.
No, not once
Yes,
I
I
call the
do.
question.
Yes, I do. Calling the question,
Ceases discussion.
no, it does not.
The question has been
Bullet
called,
number 1, 2,
but I would like to, I
As
too
long as it
actually-
moves along timely, I'm fine with that, but
It is timely.
it's not, you're arguing procedure versus policy.
No, this is policy. We're saying in this statement that we are not going to reply.
Mr.
We
Camille, is it
cannot
not
do
the
that.
standard practice of many a city organization that electronic submittals are and will be the only process? And if that is so, could Elk Creek not incorporate that same process by, as you said, providing goodwill to assist an individual that might be providing a CORA request through the snail mail with the process of the ability to submit an electronic CORA itself?
I mean, I think, with many things, the way of the world generally is shifting. Like I said, there's many examples of the required process being through email. Again, I think that for the vast majority of people, that's going to be fine, and that's kind of the way of, most people are comfortable now doing business. But ultimately, if there are any one-off scenarios that come up, we would address those as appropriate.
I think that would be
All
the
right.
process.
So the last bullet point under procedures says, failure to follow this policy shall be grounds to deny and/or disregard improperly filed requests. Again, we're disenfranchising. I don't care if it's 1%, 3%, 5%, but we are stating that we are going to be disenfranchising a certain percentage of the voters, taxpayers that we serve. To me, that's unacceptable.
Well, what if, Chuck, let me just turn it around real quick. What if they don't pay? If they don't pay, then we could deny or disregard the request because they're not following the process. So I think that the intent there is for people to understand what is trying to be incorporated to assist our custodian of records with these type of information submittal.
No, what we can fix this by not insisting a web form only, but by encouraging CORA requests through the web form, but stating that we will accept email or letter and so forth.
I would disagree.
What?
I would disagree, sir. I
Well,
think that
disagree.
if we received one, when it was finally open, and if Ms. Barb found it, and she would reply back to them, we don't accept paper, well, let me help you. Just as Mr. Camille said, we can help and assist others with these requests.
But this is putting the district in an untenable, probably unlawful position.
John, is this an unlawful position?
No.
Okay, next point, Mr. Newby.
I'm gonna go back just one second.
That was my last point.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I will yield the floor.
Thank you.
No, all I was gonna say was that, if we got something in the mail, I could see a situation where our district administrator, happens to be Barb right now, could send a letter and say, you need to fill out the web form. Go to your local library. Go to your local library and get online.
And assist with process.
And assist, that would be assisting the person
Okay.
with the process.
Next point. Do you have anything? Okay. Do you have anything else?
No, I would just like to restate the motion.
Okay, I would like to add two things, and I would ask my fellow board members, I know that, to consider this. I know that Elk Creek has been on the hook for people that do not pay. I think that we need to remove the 50% of estimate and say to complete the 100% of the estimate preceded, and any refunds will be provided after CORA is completed. I don't think it's, I think it's disingenuous for somebody to come in and to submit 50% of payment, and we provide, say $10,000 worth of effort. I know that might be over the edge, but they only give us $5,000. We are out for $5,000. I would like us to consider 100% of payment with possibility of, or with any refunds provided afterwards. And then this, yeah, that was the only thing that I wanted to add.
So you want to change to 100% of estimated costs?
So it would read something like, we'll provide the requester with a time cost estimate which may require which will require a prepayment before processing your request. If you pay for more time than is spent processing your request, you will receive a refund. I don't like the idea of the Elk Creek owning somebody else's inability to pay because of whatever the reason is. If they want the information, they should be able to put up front the monies that are necessary for the effort that's dedicated to these CORA requests, which are lengthy and which have a significant amount of personnel time that are dedicated to that. Is there any concern from my fellow board members with the amendment to 100% with a refund for any time over that process?
I support that.
Okay. Barb, are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
John, do you find any issue with that amendment to the policy?
No, that's fine.
I actually don't want to restate the motion so much as I would like Barbara to confirm that she has received all of the,
Yeah,
that
we'll
we have
go
this,
through 'em
the
real quick.
changes.
We'll go line by line of the ones that are. Do you have a pretty good idea of the? 'Cause
Maybe.
Chuck did a good job of going chronologically, and then I jumped.
I'm not sure I caught everyone, I think I got most of them.
Okay. I want to make sure that we are all on the same page with any changes that are made.
So we talked about the digital component, but that's already in there.
Well, let me go through what I have.
Okay.
Director Vaney stated that she would like to remove 4137 per hour and have it read as determined by the state. And then there was the recommendation by Mr. Camille to have the amount the state is, that is approved by the state listed somewhere within the document.
Appendix A.
Okay?
You'll list, so you just list the state fees as Appendix A.
Okay. Then on a release of records, Director Devaney requested a change from 3 business days to 7 on both the first and the second sentence.
So time for them to communicate and time for them to pay.
Then on the second from the bottom where it says the requester may obtain copies as requested records of the requested records at a cost, strike 25 cents per page and enter as allowed by the state.
Okay.
So it just goes back to that appendix.
Listing the amount in the appendix. So I have it in mind, jumping back to procedures. Strike the payment of 50% anywhere listed and have it labeled as require 100% of payment before processing and proceeding with work.
Yeah.
Were there any other changes to the policy?
So is John gonna draft a new one?
No, Barb's making the adjustments to it
I'll
right
make the adjustments to the draft and then I'll just have John review it.
And then,
So I would like to restate my motion.
please do.
I move that we accept the amended CORA request policy subject to review and approval by Mr. Camille.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
No,
No, you're not against, or no?
no, I am,
Okay. You are
no,
against.
I'm against.
Abstentions? That motion carries. All right. The final item under new business is the, make sure I have it, the resolution of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District requesting voters energetically and resolutely oppose statewide ballot initiatives 50 and 108.
I so move that we accept this resolution.
All right. Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion on the motion. To
Okay,
accept the
so-
resolution.
I have some answers for everyone. Initiatives 50 and 108 are still being circulated to be added to the ballot. SDA is working on building language that goes into the blue book. All of the blue book language needs to be submitted prior to September 7th so that it is accurately drafted in the publication of the blue book, which goes out to all voters 30 days prior to the November 5th. So the deadline is all of the blue book language needs to be submitted by September 7th. SDA has a deadline to get all responses prior to that. That's why there is a deadline. And the only question I have for the board, and perhaps, and I can restate the motion as I submitted 2 resolutions, draft resolutions. I submitted one that is the generic SDA resolution for everyone's review. And then I submitted one that is specific to the fire department. Personally, I have no preference. We can approve both of them. I think the fire department one is more specific to the fire, to us, but I have no preference either way.
Could you clarify which that one is, which we all have a copy of?
This one is the fire department one.
That's the second one you sent out, correct?
Yes.
Somebody-
That is the one I sent out this morning.
So I have a question, just kind of a general question. So we're stating in this resolution that we as the board, right, are going to request that voters energetically.
That's
okay.
the language that the Chiefs Council wrote in there.
It's okay.
All it is,
Resolutely oppose statewide ballot initiatives 50 and 108 for
Mhm.
the November 5th statewide election. So how are we going to communicate this to the voters?
This goes into the Blue Book information and it goes on the SDA website. That's it. We're done from that point on.
There's
Because
no
if you
cost
guys-
associated?
No, absolutely not. Because if you guys remember, as a fire department, we cannot campaign. So
Correct.
what this resolution is saying is the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors opposes Initiative 50 and Initiative 108.
Okay, and
That's it.
that goes into the blue book or
That language will be summarized in the Blue Book as something along, and I'm speculating based on what I've seen prior with the SDA. 376 fire protection districts oppose this
Okay, so
referendum.
in the blue book, it'll be a little more general. This resolution just basically says
It's just
Yeah,
fancy
yeah,
language for
support.
saying, please don't
Yeah.
do this.
we're supporting SDA's position
Mhm.
on these 2 initiatives, and
Yes.
we want them to use that information
Yes.
to communicate
And
that to
SDA will
voters.
do what it does and campaign for or against.
So we're not campaigning, we're just saying.
Nope. We just say we oppose it.
We're basically saying,
Yes.
as a fire board, we are opposing these 2 initiatives.
Yes.
The energetically request to voters will be.
Yeah, that's the one
SDA.
written by the fire chiefs.
Okay, that'll be something that the SDA communicates to voters in the blue book. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you
So,
for understanding.
so do we plan to put out a press release?
Nope.
Do we
Because
plan to
remember,
put
the
this
district
on-
doesn't campaign.
Well, we do campaign, we have campaigned in the past.
Certain members of
Yeah,
the board have
yeah, of
campaigned,
course
but
we
not
have.
everybody.
We spent a lot of money campaigning.
No, I haven't.
I haven't.
Yeah, we
Okay,
did.
all right.
No,
The
I
district
haven't.
will not campaign on this
So,
initiative. It is
we will-
language,
We will not, I just want to be clear on this. We are saying that we are not going to do a press release,
not at
social
this time.
media. We're not going to post it on our website. We're just going to
It'll be
send it
listed in the
strictly
minutes.
to the SDA.
We are reporting this to the minutes, or to the SDA, and it becomes part of the official record of the Elk Creek
Our
Fire
record.
Protection District.
Internally.
It's posted on the website.
It's a resolution of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors.
So we're going to put
Which
it
is-
on our website.
It's public record.
It'll be listed in the minutes, which is posted on our website.
Okay.
But at this point, the SDA has not asked for anything other than opposition, a statement of opposition to Prop 50 or to Initiative 50 and Initiative 108.
Yeah.
That is all this is. And from a board of directors position, that I am opposed to Initiative 50 and Initiative 108.
And the board.
My
The
personal
board, the
opinion,
board is,
yes.
yeah.
My personal opinion is very different. It might be. But that doesn't matter. I think it is a bad idea for this district. I think it's a bad idea for any district that relies on property taxes.
So I think it is bad policy for us to be essentially campaigning, lobbying our constituents, our citizen taxpayers, in any form about whether or not we agree with a proposition, a ballot initiative, or what have you, that affects the taxes.
Mr. Camille?
So this is a specific exception. That is the general rule. There is a prohibition on local governments using local government or public funds or resources to campaign. That's out of the Fair Campaign Practices Act. There are a few exceptions to that. One of them specifically in the statute is that the board can pass a resolution either in support of or in opposition to a measure that would impact the local, at the district level, at a local level. So for example, the initiatives in this 15108 would have a statewide impact on property tax revenue. They would directly impact the amount of revenue the district would collect. So it certainly qualifies for that exception. And there's even a kind of a finer point to answer your question on the press release piece of it. It has to be treated just like any other resolution of the board. Again, so that it substantially limits it. It really wants to avoid any kind of additional kind of quote unquote campaign efforts when it comes to the resolution. It is purely a resolution at the board level. It has to be treated like any other resolution. And really the only thing typically that will happen is that you have other entities, for example, SDA or the state chiefs or Professional Firefighter Association, that will compile that information on their own and report that in a way that supports that entity's campaign. But the district itself can't really do anything other than vote on whether to accept or reject this resolution, just like any other resolution that comes before the board.
Thank you, Mr. Camille. Director Newby, any other comments?
I will not support this.
Okay, your opinion is heard. Any other discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion? Last time, discussion on the motion.
I would
Hearing
just
none?
like, which one would you prefer?
Oh, the one that is presented to us is the
The
one that
firefighter one?
I am going to be voting on. It's
Okay.
the one.
So I move that we pass,
Second one, you said?
yeah, we pass the resolution written by the Council of Fire Chiefs.
Okay, and again, is there a second on her motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of passing the resolution of the Oak Creek Fire Protection District requesting voters energetically and resolutely oppose statewide ballot initiatives 50 and 108 for the November 5th statewide election? All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
No.
And that motion carries. That is the last item, new business. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved and passes at 7:20.
We didn't get Mr. Nibby's here. I don't believe he said he didn't. I don't think we got a vote.
Oh, okay. For the adjournment?
Return.
You ready to go, Chuck?
Yes?
Okay.
Good.
7:20.
Thank you, Bethany.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Doug.
Recording
Thank you,
stop.
John.